So my name is Andrew, and I am the innovator behind CPD Me. And I'm going to be walking you through this presentation of the top 10 tips. Where you see this little logo tonight means you are completely free to capture the screen. You can grab your phone out and you can capture it because there might be some useful tips in there. And so wherever you see that little captured screen, that little photo image, you can grab your phone out and you can capture that screen. And you can actually even use screen captures to substantiate your CPD. So you can have that tip for free, but it's not included in my top 10. But it's a really good opportunity. There's nothing on this presentation that is patented or copyrighted. It all belongs to us. You're more than welcome. You can see there at CPDme is our Twitter handle. My Twitter name is Andy Ormerod or Andy Orme. You can more than welcome to follow me, but I don't share recipes and I don't share cake baking tips. I might just share the occasional free CPD, but you're more than welcome to follow me on Twitter. So the history of CPD Me. Back in 2007, I did some research as part of my degree in relation to demystifying and simplifying processes that would affect or influence practitioners. And one of the things that interested me, because of some personal reasons and some supporting other people, was the ability to record a CPD portfolio that was succinct and that actually worked well for a practitioner moving forward as the move into academia was starting to occur. So I'm a paramedic by trade, and we're just about to become registered with the HCPC at the time. And I got colleagues who had CPD portfolios very similar to what you can see on screen. And that historically, certainly in the ambulance profession, was encouraged. They would keep almost paper clippings from incidents that attended. They would keep thank you letters. They would keep commendations. They'd keep long service awards. And all that documentation would eventually pile up in A4 binders or shoe boxes and such. But what I realized was it almost becomes unmanageable after a very short period of time. Now, I supported a couple of people who were really struggling and been submitted portfolios very similar to you can see on the screen to the HCPC and very quickly had it sent back. I don't know who paid for the postage cost of sending portfolios that size, but that's what was happening at the time. And I quickly realized then as part of my research that something needed to be done. We needed to simplify and demystify this process and make it more accurate and succinct. And so the research came about and I identified that actually streamlining recording CPD and the ability to recall it and demystify some of the elements around it was maybe the future. And it wasn't reinventing the wheel because there were CPD portfolio builders out there. So I'm just going to pop a poll up onto the screen now. So we're going to have some interactivity. So I want you to pop on there. So we did a poll from 2020 around the common reasons to produce a CPD portfolio. So this is taken from our members who joined between the 1st of January 2020 and the end of December 2020. Just have a look. What do you think the most common reason to produce a portfolio was? Interesting, HCPC audit revalidation is the most popular. Nobody's choosing the something else option. Okay. Let's wrap that up there and we'll just have a look at the results. So 44%, 90%, sorry, think HCPC audit revalidation, 0% disciplinary, 8% for promotion job interview, note just for fun, 2% reviewing their own work, and 0% something else. So interestingly, the two categories that were the highest were disciplinary and promotion and job interview. The actual HCPC audit or revalidation for the NMC or such was actually in the very bottom reasons why people built that portfolio. And that was very interesting because actually when I did the research back in the original 2007, 2008, it identified that people were starting to build portfolios specifically just for audit and not for other reasons. And what I recognized or what I identified at the time was that there was 4 key barriers. And these key barriers I'm going to go through and share with you now. The first one was managing CPD evidence. The average person loves paper portfolios or loves to keep them folders and binders. But you know as well as I do, over a period of time, they ultimately become unmanageable. And if you're anything like me, I would attend an event and I would pick up a certificate or pick up some hand notes or some handouts, and then somebody would put a cup of coffee on them. My daughter would put a tea on it, and then that evidence was completely cosmetically wrecked. And The other element of this managing evidence was people historically would believe that everything had to be substantiated with a certificate. And we all know in actual fact that is far from the truth, because you can substantiate it with anything. The other element was, certainly for the people registered with the HCPC, is they didn't really understand standard 2, which was that your CPD must include a mixture of different learning types, activities, and that also you needed to substantiate some of your learning with evidence. And that CPD also must relate specifically to your registration or your professional practice or your profession. And that created some confusion in people building them portfolios. And again, because they didn't understand it, or they weren't able to articulate or bring all the evidence together, it was almost the main barrier to why people wouldn't build that portfolio. The second element was time. And this was really, really up there within the research group. We're all busy professionals and we simply didn't have time to build that portfolio. What I did identify was portfolio building was more reactive than proactive, and people would build them specifically for that disciplinary or that incident learning analysis, or when something had gone wrong at work and then they were asked for it by their employer. But it was never usually a proactive approach. It was generally a reactive element. So interview, audit, and learning analysis were top themes really to why people would build that portfolio. And again, the most common one was either an interview or an incident learning analysis, because something had gone wrong at work and their employer had asked them to bring their record of their learning and development in, whether there was a registered nurse, midwife, physiotherapist, occupational therapist. And what they recognized, or what they told me from the research, was it took on average of 38 hours to build a CPD portfolio. Now, I struggle articulating an hour, let alone 38 hours, which is a significant amount of time. And that was from 100 people that were surveyed who'd been chosen for either interview, audit, or an incident learning analysis over a 12-month period. The third biggest reason was the format. I simply don't know how to format a CPD portfolio, and that was just enough to create that psychological step to the reasons why you wouldn't start in the first place. And that really was a big issue in relation to why people wouldn't start, simply because the simple process of how do I lay it out would be a major barrier. And then the fourth was, how do I manage all of this portfolio? Because I go and pull all my certificates off and I go and pull all my folders out, and it is just unmanageable. And not just storage, as people expanded or married a partner or bought a house or developed a family and stepped up the ladder of the career, they almost wouldn't give up them paper portfolios. And I'm sure there's people out there smiling now who can relate to still having folders and folders from the university, from courses and elements that they've taken charge of, and simply don't just want to give up them piles of paper that we have stored in the house, either in the spare bedroom, under the spare bed, up the attic, in the loft, wherever, but we just don't want to give them up. But we know that ultimately over a period of time, it's unmanageable. We simply can't continue to pile on them documents and hope that at some point we could find a certificate, we could find some research in there that we're taking part in, we could look for an essay because we've got a student who's doing something similar and we want to share that with them, or whether we want to utilize a reflective practice that we did 10 years ago and bring it up to date. So the simple process is you need to change the mindset around CPD, and there was no other way than to speak to my initial research group and say, you need to do something differently. You can't continue doing what you're doing, because if you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll keep on getting what you've always got. And I'm pretty sure that's a famous quote from Henry Ford. So event is basically any account of learning. So whenever you learn something new, whether that's flicking onto the a mobile app to look at a drug calculation, or looking at a current guideline or process, or whether it's reading a bulletin from your email, that is an event. It's a learning event, and it is as simple as that. Your response is, what did I learn? Was it a new skill? Did I underpin my existing knowledge? We all know that we'll often read a bulletin, or we'll read a document, or read a book even, that doesn't teach us anything new, but what it does do is just underpin our existing knowledge. And that is your response. It could be something new. It might not be something new. And then outcome. How will this ultimately benefit my patient? How can I translate this learning to what I do for a living, whether that's a patient, whether it's a customer, whether it's a service user? How is it cross-pollinatable to what I do for a job? So when we look at an event, This is almost any substantive or self-directed learning, such as bulletins, pinned up a notice board, emailed around, or indeed taking part in a structured learning event, such as a module at university, or online courses, or indeed a webinar. And my top tip for this point was simply capture them bulletins. We all get plenty of bulletins, certainly in the NHS sent around, but capture it. And the other top tip is, if you are doing a degree or a diploma or a master's, then spread them modules out. Don't just document that you've done an MSc in advanced practice or a BSc in physiotherapy. Spread the modules out individually, because you can fill your portfolio almost 2 or 3 years worth just from the modules that you've taken part in. And the response, it has to be a new mindset change, and only through that will you achieve a new result. And your response is a change in your practice that is substantiated by a learning experience or a competency-based qualification that allows you to practice within a given scope. So you might learn to do a new skill. You might learn how to suture, how to manage pre-hospital wounds, skin tears and such. But there has to be some competence element to that, or something that's going to influence a change. And a tip is almost any change that will influence and benefit your patient or your service user. And you can sometimes work backwards and learn a new skill and then map it to how you're going to do your job. And we often do that. We'll find really good learning opportunities out there and not really think, is this a skill gap? And then try to map it later. And that's fine. And that's okay. Lots and lots of professionals do that. And then the outcome element. The outcome should be defined as almost a positive improvement in your knowledge, or an improvement in your individual practice or your behavior that can be directly linked to either a patient, a service user, customer management, and ultimately change for the outcome, or change the outcome for the better. So maybe someone can give me some examples in the chat now, but maybe someone give me an example of what you've done recently and how you've directly related that back to your specific job or your specific role, because I'll be interested to see what people can put in there, what you've done recently that you can specifically directly back, and I'll come to your chat later on and we'll talk about it. So what I found from my research was we accidentally created CPD Me on the 3rd of November 2009. I remember it well, at 11 o'clock in the morning. And CPD Me was never intended to be a business. It was never intended to be a solution. It was intended to be a research capture tool to identify simple ways to record, and more importantly, bring all of your CPD together in a manageable format, which would ultimately reduce time for practitioners, and it would make the formatting simple because you wouldn't have to think about that. But more importantly, you could manage many years of CPD in a simple format. Now, the advantage we have of CPD Me is I'm still a practicing professional out there. I have a team of professionals who work here looking after the system, but I still work in general practice and I still work out there doing patient management. And so as CPD Me evolves with the professional requirements, the system evolves. Why? Simply because I use the system to manage my own portfolio, and I'm going to show you that as we do the demonstration. So my top 10 tips to managing or changing your mind process or your thought process or the way that you document CPD. So just pop in the chat now what you've taken part in the last month. Just put in there whether you've read a bulletin, whether you've taken part in a webinar, whether you've done mandatory training, whether you've had a discussion around a job or an incident that went really well, or maybe a job that hasn't gone well. Just pop it in the chat now. Nobody's going to look at you or judge you, but just pop in the chat now and just give us an idea of what you've done recently that will influence or change your practice. So I can see Leslie Ann watched a YouTube video today on cannulating. Fabulous. Watched a YouTube video on ankle examination, arranged some training for the team. Excellent example of CPD that's shown. So lots of different things. Watched a webinar on living kidney donation. Brutha, fabulous. There's lots of different ways you can do. Now, how can you substantiate that? Because we take part in lots of electronic learning. How can you substantiate it? You don't need a certificate. You don't always need physical evidence. It could be a web link. It could be a link to something you've watched online. It could be a link somewhere else. But it's about you developing that mindset. What have you done lately to improve your knowledge? And at that point, you need to do something about it, which is very briefly and quickly document it. I'm going to show you how you can do that in a second on the app. Tip number 9, if you're struggling to start, then start with either your CV or a recent job application. Your job application form that you submit can actually be used as CPD itself. If you've applied for a secondment, if you've applied for a job, you can put that into your portfolio, and that will substantiate a piece of CPD evidence. But more importantly, within the CPDme system, it's going to ask for information that's probably relevant to what you have on a CV, your recent qualifications, your qualifications from school, from college, from university. You can simply copy and put all of that into the profile element of CPDme. And once you see that starting to develop, it really will help you motivate. So whether that's from a CV, job description, or an application form, often when I do these classes at universities, say to students, copy your application form from the recent job you've applied to, because most of that will be your general role, and that information you can use within your profile. Top tip: work smart, not hard. If it's already there and you're using it and it's part of your job application and you've written that yourself, then reuse it within your portfolio. I'd probably turn against copying and plagiarizing because it's somebody else's work. But if you've wrote that job application form yourself, then use that work within your profile within CPDme. This is a bit like pay-as-you-go for those people who have pay-as-you-go phones, but capture as you go. Because if you don't capture as you go, which is our top tip number 8, you will simply miss opportunities to take part in really good CPD, or more importantly, you will miss evidence that you can use to substantiate your portfolio. And using the mobile app, you can quickly capture evidence and you can convert the files into a digital format and you can include it into your portfolio really easily. And I'll show you how to do that when we jump onto the app. But a bit like pay-as-you-go, it allows you to very quickly capture something, it stashes it away in the app, and then it reminds you to do something with it later. So that might be a book or a chapter in a book. It could be a bulletin on a notice board. It could be a CPD certificate. It could be a website. It could be anything at all that you can capture with a mobile phone. And I'll show you some other things that you can capture to substantiate, whether that's a voice conversation or something else, when we jump onto the mobile app demonstration. Searching for a webinar. We have got hundreds of free CPD webinars on our website, but some people find it difficult to search for them. You can simply, on a Windows computer, type F4 on the webinar page, or if you're on a Mac, you can click Command and F, and you can type in the title, whether it's child trauma, whether it's suturing, whether it's childbirth, whether it's medical emergencies, and that will find it. Equally, all our webinars are now being put onto YouTube, so you can jump onto the YouTube channel and you can find them from there. The easiest way to find all of our webinars or previous broadcasts is on our mobile app. So please do take an opportunity to download it, because you can fully search the mobile app and it makes it super simple and easy. And I'll show you when we go through the demo. Top tip number 6, educational studies. And I've already spoke about this. Split what you have done into separate modules. Don't just put you have done a BSc or a diploma or an MSc. I have colleagues out there who's done degrees in nursing, physiotherapy. I've got colleagues who's builders and electricians or doctors. Split your degree or your diploma into separate modules and use the essays or the problem-based learning work that you did, whether it's creating a 20-foot poster or your reflective practice, to support these individual modules under their titles. It's a great way to start building your portfolio if you have nothing to put into it. But more importantly, what you can do if you separate them into separate modules or components is you can revisit them in the future. Because if you're like me, you'll end up mentoring a student or supporting other people at work. There will be things that you've done as part of your diploma or degree or master's, or even a course that you've attended if it's not academic, that you'll be able to revert back to and reference in the future. And we know practice changes, but I've got a reflective practice for miscounting morphine that is probably about 16, 17 years old. And every time I support somebody in practice who's made that same mistake, I will bring that reflective practice piece back up to date. So I've always got at least a 2,000-word reflective practice piece in my portfolio that is never longer than 12 months old, because every time I support somebody else, I'll reflect upon how that incident that I took part in 15, 16, 17 years ago has now ultimately supported someone this month, last month, or within the last 12 months. And you can't do that with a paper portfolio. Certainly you can't do it if your reflective practice is sat up in your attic in that pile of documents that we saw earlier. Gamification. People love simplifying gamification. And we know this because it's built upon the success of WhatsApp and TikTok and all other elements. But enjoy watching your CPD grow. Don't just put it into a folder and visit it as and when you need to for an audit or interview. Really try to visit your CPD portfolio regularly. And I'll show you when we go jump into the app and also onto the website how this system supports gamification. Because what it does do is it tells you how much of a percentage you've completed with each of your submissions, whether you've put a date in there, whether you've put a title in there, whether you've put what is it going to change within your practice, how is it going to benefit your service users, and it gives you a percentage in ultimate aim of you trying to get 100% of that entry complete. Now, like anything else, you can cheat it. You can simply put 1 or 2 words in there, but the aim of the gamification is to try and achieve a complete portfolio that not only has some evidence in there to substantiate what you've done, maybe, but also has got some text in there that will articulate why you took part in that activity and how that information is translatable to what you do as a job. But stop thinking it as an audit tool, stop thinking it as a chore, and be proud of what you've done. Because recording a CPD entry can literally be as quick as WhatsApping your mates or sharing a TikTok or sharing something else. And I'll show you how quick it is when we get onto the demonstration. Tip 4, shared CPD. We integrated this feature about 2 years ago because people wanted to come to CPD Me, not just to record their CPD, but either to take part in a webinar or look at what other people were doing within their same profession. So we have a shared CPD section where you can visit and you can get some CPD motivation, and you can almost gamify it. You can click the like button and you can see how many other people have liked it. And it just helps support a reason why you should constantly come back and revisit your portfolio within the app or on the website. And I'll show you that again when we jump onto this system. Forward planning your CPD. Now, it has never been easier than with our system. And you can use the CPD diary form to forward plan it right up until the year 30,033 if you really like, but it is really simple. And you can attach pre-course learning material, you can attach self-directed study, and the system or the app will remind you to document your CPD when you've taken part or that date has come about, as long as you've got your notifications on, of course, on the app. But it will prompt you and say, hey, Stuart, hey, Joanne, hey, Trevor, take part in your CPD activity. It's happened today. You now need to take 2 or 3 minutes to document what you've done and how that's going to influence your change of practice. And if you're really savvy, you can click onto the dictate mode and the app will turn your talk into text, which makes it super simple. Equally, you can backdate your CPD. So anything you've done, in fact, since 1900, you can backdate it using the app or using the website. So you have done things recently and you're just on the cusp of maybe joining us, then you can backdate everything you've done within the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. What we historically find is that people, once they've joined, will not just keep the last 2 or 3 years for audit purposes, but they'll also, because the system is simple, backdate all of the things that they have done over the past few years or even from the start of their career. Tip number 2. A complete CPD portfolio in 2 minutes or even less than 2 minutes that you can either print, email, or upload. Now, CPD Me has been ahead of the game since 2009 because we were creating digital portfolios since then. You probably all know, if you're HCPC registered or registered with other governing bodies, that the most of the governing bodies have now gone digital and they want it submitting electronically, not via paper format. So we really have been ahead of the game for a significant amount of time. And when I get to the portfolio demonstration mode, I'm going to show you how an HCPC portal that makes it really simple to translate all your information that you have on our system onto your governing body's audit platform. Tip number 1, and this is a golden question. Do I need to join CPD Me? Yes or no? If you've got a system that works for you and it allows you to record CPD and capture evidence and it works and you're fine with it, then the answer is no. And I'm certainly not a salesman and I have no sales gimmick here to give away. If you are struggling to take charge of your learning and development, if you are struggling to bring together all that evidence and put it into a format that actually is manageable, then the answer is yes, CPD may be for you. And I'm going to give you an opportunity in a second to try it. But what I want you to do is just in the chat for me, and I don't need you to put your date of birth in, I don't need to put your age in there, but just type in there roughly how many years you have got left before you retire. So just pop in the chat roughly how many years you've got left. Might be 5 years, could be 10 years, It could be 30 years. Yeah, 10, 7, 20, John. Good heck. There's a lot of years in there, isn't there? And you imagine, because we're all registered with a governing body or an organisation, that's a pretty lot of CPD to manage. David, 2 years. David, you are so lucky. But it's a lot of years of CPD. And where we're going to store it, are we going to put it under the bed in the spare room? Where we're going to put it, where we can recall it quickly. And that's why we take the stress and worry and hassle out of managing your CPD for the rest of your career. Did sound a bit salesman like that, didn't it, really? Membership benefits. We have got a trial membership, and that trial membership is the same price you will pay for a CPD certificate for attending one of our live webinars or recorded, and that is just £1.99 for 30 days. I'm pretty confident you will like it, and I'm that confident that if you don't like it, we'll simply give you your £1.99 back. Now I am going to sound like a salesman, because I'm going to say to you, so what happens after the 30 days? CPD Me operates as a non-profit social enterprise. The yearly cost to use the system, to get free automated CPD certificates, to get 50 live CPD webinars per year, to access over 300 CPD recordings with automated certificates, a CPD health check that will check your portfolio and give you some top tips on how to bring it up to proof, unlimited CPD storage, and 365 days a year, yes, including Christmas Day and Boxing Day, is £15.99 per year. I sound like I should get a stall on Blackpool Market, shouldn't I? Cutting melons up with a fancy tool. But it literally is £15.99 per year for all of them fabulous members features. Now, we probably have lots of members here online tonight who've got lots of reasons why they want to share their stories with you. And I'm more than happy for you to share in your chat, whether you find it useful, whether you don't find it useful, whether you want things improving. But what I will tell you is that we have got over 180 organisations, including the Ministry of Defence and all the other systems on there, that use our system, because number one, it's cost effective. Number two, it's safe and secure. And number three, there's a team of professionals behind it that use the system for themselves. Have I done for the sales pitch now? I haven't mentioned that we also have systems in Qatar, Australia, and New Zealand. But of course, being the UK, we're always leading the way. So let's have a peek inside CPDme. I frowned at this picture earlier, but I like the thesis, because we're going to have a look at now of the system and the app. And this is generally where the technology starts to dramatically go wrong. So just let me stop sharing for a second, and I will jump into the mobile app first. And so let me just click on the stop share. And then we will share the mobile app. Fingers crossed. You might have to give me a yes, I can see this in the chat, if you can see it. So tell me if you can now see the mobile app. Just put yep in the chat. Ah, fabulous. Look at that. First time round. So this is the mobile app. When you load it up, it looks a bit like the bank. It tells you, good evening, Andrew. And I can very quickly see from the dashboard front how many hours I've logged this month. And if I swipe that to the right, I can see how many hours I've logged this year. And if I swipe it to the right again, you can see that I am very CPD savvy, and that there is lots of CPD there that I have documented over my lifetime. We have kept this app really super simple, purely because I know that simple works. And that ultimately was number 7, I think, on the feedback of my research, that if it's not easy to use, people simply won't engage with it. So as I scroll down, you can see the entries over the last 12 months. And again, if I scroll across, you can see the different statistics. So this month, I can see, certainly if I'm HCPC registered, my mixture of learning activities that I've done this month, this year, or a lifetime. So you can really see a graphical link of what you've done recently. And you can also see your activity of what you've done in your own time as part of your job role as such. If you love joining our CPD webinars, then please download this app, because it makes recording and registering for the webinars simple. So I'm going to register now for Let's Talk About Sex, Productive Health, presented by Anthony Kitchener. And literally to register, I click on that button and it says, do I want to register? Scroll down, click on register, and that's me done. And I'll very quickly have an email sent through to me, and you can see on the app now that it's gone green. And that means that I'm registered for this app. All of my CPD entries that I have done forever appear on the entries screen. And you can see the gamification to the right-hand side. So you can see where it rotates between note hours of CPD, 33% complete. And the one below where it says discussion around documenting CPD is a big green circle with a big green tick, and it says 1 hour, and that is complete. And that means that I have filled in all the required fields within that particular entry. Any CPD events all appear here. So it's almost like your CPD calendar. So if you have any future CPD events, they will appear within that calendar, and you can share that with your colleagues or with your Google Cal. And then if you click onto the CPD option at the end, you can see all of the shared CPD opportunities. So these are CPD that other people have shared that you can either like, so the gamification element, or you can click into and you can visit the link and take part in free CPD opportunities. And at the top, if you click onto videos, you can see on the videos all of the CPD webinars on there. And if you are a premium member, when you get to the end, you will be able to request a CPD certificate for free. So I'm going to show you now when we talked about quickly capturing a bulletin or an evidence, and this is generally where it goes wrong. So please bear with me. Now, what I'm going to do is, you might lose the microphone. I'll try and turn it around a little bit so you can hear me, is at the very bottom of the screen, you can see a big plus. If you click on that plus, you have 3 options. The first option on the left is to create a new diary entry. Now, I'm not going to go through this form because I'll let you download the app and have a play with it yourself, but it is really simple. And if you're not too sure what to put in the boxes, you click on the little question mark at the side and it tells you what you need to put into there. I'm going to exit. You click on the little cross again. The middle section is to create a new reflective practice. And again, there's many different reflective models on there that you can choose, whether it's an academic model, whether it's CRASHED, which is designed for emergency practitioners or pre-hospital, but you can literally go through that reflective practice and you can either save and continue, or you can save and exit, and you can come back at a later point in the future. If I go back to the little cross, the next option is the most fabulous feature of this app, and one that most people generally don't know about. And that is quickly capture evidence. And if you click on that camera icon, you have 2 elements to this. You've got My Files section. So when you've captured some evidence, it will appear in My Files. And that, if they are unassigned, will remind you in the health check that you've captured CPD, but you haven't done anything with it. And that is a revolution in CPD recording, because there is no other system out there that has that capability. So you can capture a piece of evidence, and then the system on a monthly basis will say to you, hey, Georgina, you captured a certificate last month, but you haven't reflected on what that certificate was and what it's done to change your practice. So I'm going to click on Add at the top of the screen, and I now have several options. I have Document Scanner, and I'm going to show you how to scan a document or a certificate. You have the camera, so you can capture a selfie or a screen grab. You have a gallery where you can capture what you've already captured on your mobile device. You have a voice recording where you can have a collegial discussion with your friend, making sure there's no patient identifiable information or customer information, and you can use that to substantiate your portfolio. Or you can go to the files option and you can attach something that you already have stored on your system. So bear with me. I'm going to click into the document scanner, and I've, just like magic, got a certificate on my desk. Now, there's a couple of options. As you can see, you've got automatic, which automatically tries to capture, and manual, and you've also got a flash option if it's a little bit dark. But if I hover over this certificate, what I should be able to do is capture that certificate. And then what I can do is I can drag the little corners down to the very bottom or the top of the certificate, and I can square it off perfectly. So if you're in a well-lighted area or well-lit area, it will actually do this for you automatically, but you can actually drag it by hand and you can make it into a perfectly formatted square. I was never very good at art at school, to be honest, so I never thought I was going to be good at this. Click on to next, and you can see that that's captured or squared off my CPD certificate. So that could be a bulletin, or it could be a book or a journal. And then I'm going to click on to done. And then what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to tag it. And I'm going to put on there CPD certificate from my chat. Now, once I've submitted that, it's then going to appear, as you can see there at the top, and it will sit in my files. Now, if I don't do anything with my files, someone's trying to ring, fabulous. If I don't do anything with my files, what that's going to do is it's going to remind me that I need to take charge of that CPD entry and that I need to document that entry within a period of time. And that comes within the health check system. So that's a whistle stop tour around the app. I'm just going to show you another fab feature that people aren't aware of. And that is the ability for you to log onto CPDme website, and then you can access the app to sign in. So if you click on your little photo icon at the top right, and then you click onto Access CPD Dashboard, that will create a little QR code scanner. And if you point that at the screen when you come to log into CPDme, it will log you in securely. And not a lot of people know we have that system or that feature in place. So if you forget your password or your username, just go to cpdme.com and log in, or cpdme.com/mobile, point your camera at the screen now, and it will automatically log you in to the portfolio builder. Now I'm going to try doing this now. I'm not sure whether it's going to work, but I'll certainly give it a whirl. So if I pop that onto the screen, I'm not sure whether you can see the screen there. So I've popped it onto the dashboard, and I'm going to click onto the mobile app option. And then if I click and point that at the mobile app, you'll very quickly see that it says success logged in. And then the dashboard will log me in automatically like magic. So that's our mobile app, and it really does make recording your CPD super simple. You can make a diary entry in literally less than 2 minutes. So let me just stop sharing that, and I'll jump onto the website for you, and I'll give you a quick whistle stop tour of the website. Okay, so we're going to share desktop number 1. So you should be able to see my website now. Quick thumbs up if you can see that, or quick yes. Fabulous. Okay. So you've logged onto cpdme.com. You then go onto member sign in. You can either sign in via your username and password, or like I've just showed you, you can use a mobile app and you can jump in there and sign in. And this is the dashboard. Again, very similar to what it looks like on the app, but you can see how many hours I've logged over 12 months, how many entries I've got, how many diary entries, and how many reflections I have in a 12-month period. And if I change that to 12 months, 24 months, 36, or lifetime, you can see ultimately how many I've got over that period of time. And down below is some other metrics in there that will help you measure and take charge of your portfolio. Now, if this dashboard looks overwhelming, or you think, gosh, there's too much on there going on for me, if you click on Customize, you can turn advanced mode off, click on to save, and it will literally turn it into a simple dashboard for you with a very few options. But it's entirely up to you, but it is completely customizable, and you can choose what you want or what you don't want in there. Now, these options below for the notifications are really useful, because when you submit an entry, you can get a confirmation email that will come back to you. And if you tick that option, that will support you to do that. If you want a list of all your planned CPD that you have future dated, you can do that and tick that option. If you want a monthly report of your digestive CPD, you can do that. And a quarterly report, again, will do the same. So these are the options that's very short they're going to be launching within the CPD health check. So it's a really, really great feature to have on there. So I've gone back to advanced mode because I'm going to show you a quick whistle stop tour, and I'm going to show you how quickly I can document a diary entry. So I'm going to click onto diary entry, and I'm going to use an example of a course that I've done recently. So I'm going to put into my title, discussion with colleagues around managing skin tears in the community. Okay, that was a 1 hour and 30 minutes event. So I spoke with colleagues around a room for 1 hour and 30 minutes. You don't necessarily need to document hours. My start date is the date this takes place. And if it's a module for university, you can put an end date, but you don't necessarily need to do that. We often get the question asked. I've got multiple registrants, so I'm a physiotherapist and I'm also a registered nurse. The governing body option here will select what you have put in your profile, but you also have the option to change it there to something else if you need to. So if you want to document for the NMC or the GMC or the HCPC, you can do that. And as you change this governing body, the fold below it will also change. So arranged in is going to be myself, whether it's competency-based, education, managerial, myself as a mentor. So I'm going to put myself as part of my job role. And then this is the exciting bit, which allows you to select what category this relates to. Now, we were going to put free text capability in here, but what I will tell you is if you want something adding to this list of CPD activities, then please let me know and I can add it into there within 24 hours. So if you want a category adding, just drop me an email or tweet me and message me and saying, hey, Andrew, loving your CPD system. Can you please add this category into that system? At some point in the future, we will let you add free text or add whatever you want to put in there. But for the time being, we can add it very quickly so that other people can share and learn from it. So I'm going to put in there that I did, it was mentoring. This box now is the capability to map this to KSF. So if people are NHS, you can click that box and you can map this to the KSF standards. So if you're having an appraisal at work, then you can map that succinctly to whatever you need to. The development activity has benefited me because, very simply, and as I click onto it and hover, it's going to tell you, here is where you can demonstrate the reflective element of your learning. It doesn't necessarily need to be academic. It simply is, why did you select this learning? I took part in this learning to share my knowledge around skin tears with my colleagues at work. How will I influence, or I will influence the way I do my job? So it won't necessarily influence the way I do my job, but it will support other people to make the right decision and to use the right dressings. Support other practitioners to have a better understanding of grading wounds and using the most appropriate dressing. And then last bit, will this learning benefit your service user, customer, or patient? Having these extra skills and kit will support better care in the community for my colleagues managing patients at home. Does anybody else need to talk when they're typing the same thing? So I've just used an example there, but it basically is, why did you select this learning? How will it influence the way you do your job? And will this learning benefit your service user, customer, or patient? The next options are HCPC for me, because I'm a HCPC registered practitioner. So I will select the relevant standards that meet my requirements. If there's a website address to this learning activity, you can pop it into there. So I'll put a learning activity in there. So https mindmywound.com. I don't think that's a real address, so please don't look at it. But if there is a website address, you can copy and paste it into there and you can help substantiate your learning. But we've just had a question then from Bilar. Can we record any or non-CPD Me learning activities on the app? Absolutely. You can document anything you want at all on this system, right back to as long as you've been practicing. And you can also forward date, which I'll show you in a second. You then need a reminder of this activity. So the system will send you a reminder in 11 months' time to review what you've submitted today. And that is really, really useful to stop your portfolio becoming dusty and scattered. So it will say to you, hi, Paul, you submitted something 11 months ago on managing wounds in the community. Is this still relevant? Do you want to archive it, or can you delete it out of your portfolio? So that's a really useful tick box. These next options are for you attaching evidence. Now, if you've captured something on your files, for example, the bulletin that I showed you on the app, if you click onto here, it will appear in your folder where you can select it from your My Files option. If you want to select it from your desktop, then literally click onto Browse and you can attach something from your desktop. So I'll attach that certificate that I've got on my desktop, click onto Upload, Click on the upload option and you can see it uploads and then it attaches. And you can attach as a premium member up to 10 pieces of supporting evidence. And what some people do is if they're delivering a presentation or you have a PowerPoint, they'll attach the PowerPoint along with the certificate, along with the handout. So they'll have 5 or 6 pieces of evidence to substantiate their learning with. 2 options now. You can either save and close, or you can save and continue, or you can preview your entry and see what it looks like up to now in a printed format. So again, back to that psychological barrier, it will preview and it will format it all for you completely so you can see what it looks like. So if I click on save and close, you'll see that that will now save that entry. It will put it at the top. The gamification side is at the very left-hand side. You can see that it says it's fully completed because I've completed all the fields. I'm not sure whether you can see my camera, but if you look at my mobile app now, you can see that that entry has also just told me on the mobile app that I've just brought it up to date, and it's told me well done for updating that CPD entry. So again, it's got that gamification element and it reinforces that fact that you are taking charge of your CPD. Now, the options are here now. You can either look at the evidence, you can preview what it looks like in a print-ready format, which it has done there for you perfectly. So that's taken away the thought process of what does it look like. You can edit that. You can share that. So if it's something that's shareable for a useful website link, then you can share it, click on share. It doesn't share your complete reflective practice, and you can ultimately change what you want in here that will share it with your CPDme community. So you can click that option and you can share it. You can see I've got one there shared, and if at any point you don't want to share it, you click on stop share and you stop sharing it. It's as simple as that. If you want to search for the years of CPD, so back again to your thousands of folders that you might have in the attic, but well, I can quickly look at my folder from 2009 and I can see that that probably was a test entry, but there's just one entry there from 2009 and it was probably something from clinical examination skills. But you can search per year, you can search all, or you can search in the box there. So if I type in the word ECG in there, it will find every entry that contains the text of ECG. And that really does make managing your entries and finding submissions or reflections or evidence historically from the past really, really simple. The other options on here are your profile, where you put everything you would normally have in your CV. So you can see there that you can copy additional information in there. You can copy the HCPC standards in there, and everything is there that you need. My webinars are the webinars that I've got registered for. So you can see there, that's the one I registered on the app, and it's got a countdown for 4 days. You can see there that there's one registered for the role of drones in medical practice, and that's a countdown for 110 days. So you can see what webinars you've registered for. Your My Files is where you've captured all your files, whether that's quickly using the app or whether it's uploading them to the system and storing them for later. And the really useful thing about this is it's almost like a storage area, Dropbox of all of your CPD. You can search for it, or down here, you can see whether it's attached to a diary entry. And if you click or hover over that diary entry, it will even tell you which one it's attached to. And that makes collating your evidence super simple. 2 options here: delete, and that will say it's going to be deleted and it will ask you again. So it checks you twice. Or you can click onto preview and you can see that particular piece of supporting evidence. Your shared CPD is where all the shared CPD is on there, and you can look for it by the most useful or most helpful. And you can also search for the different categories. So you can search for there quite easily and find something that might be up your street. The videos is where all our premium webinars are. Excuse me. So people say usually, where do I get my automated certificates for watching a previous webinar? This is where you need to watch it from. So if you are a premium member and you want to watch a premium webinar, click onto there, and then you can search at the top, or you can find of all of these different webinars. I certainly would recommend this one here by Dr. Anna Collini on Breaking Bad News Over the Phone. It was an absolutely fun, full-packed webinar, and it was really, really good, and she gives you some great tips. But the tip I think I remember from my CPD documenting was that you are sick enough to die, which was a comment that Dr. Collini mentioned in the webinar. But once I click play, at the very end of that presentation, it will ask me whether I require a CPD certificate to substantiate my learning. And if I click yes, I fill the form in, and it drops automatically into my CPD portfolio and sends me an email and sends me an app notification to reflect upon what I've learned and how that information might translate to practice. And then you've got the calendar. So exactly the same as you have on the website, you've got the calendar there that you can take charge and manage all of your CPD with a color-coded list. Just at the very bottom there, you can see the color codes. So the golden question, how do I build a portfolio? Well, it's as simple as Sean's put, I picked up that phrase as well, and I've probably used it several times, Sean, since. How do you build or put together your portfolio? Dawn, I'm just going to answer your question for you. I have reflective pieces in my documents on the laptop. Can it be transferred to CPD Me? Absolutely, Dawn. Just go bring your documents up and transfer it onto reflective practice. So you can copy and paste it into there. Or you can actually attach it to a diary entry as a reflection, and you can do that as a whole so you don't have to copy and paste it. Portfolio building. Click on Create My Portfolio. Now, what I would normally do if I was delivering this live is I would get someone to set a timer, because you probably remember in my presentation, I said less than 2 minutes. Well, this definitely is not 38 hours of building a portfolio. We can do this before we get to 9 o'clock. So what do I want to include? A front page, my contents page, my professional information qualifications, my summary of my work, my job description, my personal statements. I don't want my photo on. You don't want to see that. Thanks, Christopher. Christopher set the timer. Infographic CPD overview of my CPD and what I've done. Yep, we'll have that. How I've met my HCPC standards. Absolutely, because I might be called for audit, so I need to include them. The new addition is if you use the clinical skills log, you can include a textual and graphical report of the same period of time that you choose within your portfolio. And again, we'll cover that, I think, in a couple of weeks' time on our clinical skills log portfolio building session. Step 1 of 6, click on to next. I can then build my portfolio. So title I'm going to put in there is my CPD Portfolio. And I'm going to put on there for job interview. You can put whatever you want in there. You can put whether it's your audit number, whether it's specific to the job, whether it's specific to an appraisal. You can put what you need in there. What I will tell you is that the new system that's launching in August allows you to flick through 15 different front pages that you can customize for your CPD portfolio. But ironically, this is the same one we've used since 2009. We've tried to change it twice, and we had complaints from members to say, can we go back to the simple plain portfolio? And I'll show you in a second how you can get rid of the CPD Me. Click on to next. How am I doing, Christopher? Give us a time on the chat. Create your portfolio date range. So this is where I choose 1 minute, 30 seconds. I better talk quicker. This is where you choose the period of time you want to pull your entries. So if it's a HCPC audit, for example, they only want the last 2 years. If it's NMC portfolio or something else, you might want to change a different period, or you could just pick what you've done this month just for fun. So I'm going to choose the 1st of May 2021 to the 27th of May 2021. Click on to next, and what that will do is it will pick my entries that have appeared between them 2 dates. So I can either select all, I can deselect all, and I can cherry pick what I want to appear or what I don't want to appear. And if I want the evidence to appear in there, I can also tick the evidence, and that will appear to step 4 of 6. I'm going to try and wrap this under 2 minutes, Sean. Click on to next. If I've got any reflective practices on there, it's going to capture them within that date period of time, but I haven't done because I've done no reflection this month. And I'm going to click on to next, and I've now got 2 options. I can either download it or I can email it to myself. And the option of emailing it to yourself is important if it's a big portfolio. So this is telling me, well done, 11 pages of CPD. That shouldn't take me too long to download. But if I want to 2 minutes 45, sorry, gone over. If you want to email it to yourself, so you can go and make a brew and then review it, you can click on email and it will send it to your email. If you want to take away the CPD Me branding, click that option and it removes CPD Me from the top. It is as simple as that. And you can click onto email, and then it will tell you that you should receive an email within 10 minutes with a link to download your portfolio. Or you can click on download and do it that way and view your PDF. And it stopped it. It is brutal, Paul. You're quite right. 3 minutes, 7 seconds. And that is your portfolio, either emailed to you or in a PDF format, so you can download it and you can print it off. And you can see the download bar there. There's 11 pages. It shouldn't take longer than a couple of minutes, realistically. But I'll let it get to the end, and then I'll pop it up and show you what it looks like. If you are using a portal or a digital system, if you click back onto your portfolio, this option and I'm pretty convinced that there isn't many systems out there that do this, but this will allow you to format everything that you have done within the CPDme system that will easily allow you to transport that information over to the HCPC portal. Now, I'm going to make it very clear that we don't give any guarantees that your portfolio will meet the HCPC standards, but what this system will do when you click request access is it will email you a step-by-step guide and a copy and paste and an upload on how you need to pull all your information off this system and then submit that to the HCPC. And it really does make it super simple. We've got a question there. I'll answer it now before we move on. What about NMC mandatory fulfilling of reflection? Good question, Nicola. So we contacted the NMC recently and said, can we add the NMC reflective template into here so that when you click on the reflective model, you can select the reflective template that's required? I will chase it up, Nicola, based on our conversation earlier today. But what you can do in the interim is if you download the template from the NMC, you can submit it as a diary entry. So if you click onto diary down here and you can click into the categories, reflective practice is one of these categories. So you can select reflective practice and you can upload that on the NMC required template as a reflective practice. And then you can almost reference in this box here that document will meet the requirements of the NMC. So when it comes to pulling it off and submitting it to the NMC, it's simple, safe and secure, and it's all in one place. And you would simply go to your entries. I'm going to leave without saving, and it's going to ask me again whether I want to leave without saving because the system is almost, it's just there to look after you and all your entries. But I'm going to click, yes, I definitely want to leave without saving. And then you can jump over here, Nicola, you can find your reflective piece and you can download it and submit it to the NMC when it comes to revalidation. So that's a whistle-stop tour of CPDme. I'm happy to take some questions now. I'm going to pop my keynote back up and I'm going to copy into the chat some links that you might find useful. And then I'll pop in there how you become a premium member. I'll pop in there how you can purchase certificates. And then we'll go for some questions. On behalf of myself, all the team here at CPDme, for those who are members here tonight and have valuably supported us since 2009, thank you so much. I really genuinely, sincerely mean that. Because it's only because of you and your support and your direction and your encouragement over the years that we are now probably one of the biggest CPD portfolio builders in Europe, but it is down to you. So a big thank you to all my members and all the followers on social media and such. I really, really, really genuinely from heart do appreciate all the support. So on behalf of me and the fabulous team at CPDme, there's normally a room full of people here in the background, but there's only me here tonight. Take care, stay safe, and if you are at home, kick off your slippers and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you and good night.